All right, this is 11 honors. We've just done the words cat, transmigration, inveterate, and cavaliers. We're going to the word assuage. Is that the next word?
Yeah.
All right, so what'd you get? Julian, assuage. Hey, lady, we're just going over the vocabulary. Can you show them to me in a minute?
An unpleasant feeling less intense.
Yeah, to make an unpleasant feeling less painful or less intense. Very good. How'd you use it?
The man read a letter which assuaged the fears of those members.
All right, assuage, but you used it correctly. All right, you get that? All right, abstemiousness. Now remember, these are Thoreau's words. That's why I wonder if it's so hard to read because of the language. Jameson, abstemiousness. And while I'm back here, let me show you. Very good. All right, so we're on act number 6.
Abstemiousness. I said not self-indulgent, especially when eating and drinking. And then for my sentence, I said that abstemious couple had very little amount of food.
And you used it as an adjective, but it's fine, because you used it, if you take the NESS off, it is an adjective. If you put the NESS on, you can't use it as an adjective, you did it correctly. It's more like abstaining. Abstaining means you don't do it at all. Abstemiousness would be, you rarely do it, whatever it is, you do it moderately, and not often. How about trumpery? That's an interesting word today.
I said something without use or value, rubbish, trash, or worthless stuff.
It could be nonsensical things or talk or something like that. It shouldn't, yeah, how about a sentence?
I said the trumpery gift was thrown into the trash.
And there you would say the trumpery was thrown into the trash, because trumpery is a noun. And you can add some context to that if you want to, but if it's a noun, it stands alone. The adjective goes in front of it. If it's an adjective, it has to go in front of a noun. Beneficence, Ryan.
An act of charity, mercy, and kindness with a strong connotation of doing good to others, including moral obligation.
So it's the act of doing good in any of those areas that he mentioned. Sentence.
The man's act of beneficence was that he donated a bunch of money to charity.
Very good. Dyspepsia. We'll go to, you don't have it, right? Jackson can do it.
The act of charity, mercy, and kindness with a strong condition of doing good to others.
That was beneficence. That's right. But what about dyspepsia?
I think this one might be wrong, but I did indigestion
Why would you think it's wrong?
because it doesn't seem right.
It's correct.
Okay.
That's all it is. So you can use it anywhere you would use this indigestion.
I think my sentence
Jefferson?
was, I said the food caused
Dyspepsia. You think that may be the reason why that I don't like it, that terrible tasting pink stuff that you take when your stomach's upset? Pepto-Bismol. It's got the word pep in it. Must be a connection. Oral, I can't even say it, Alistair.
I got a long definition, it's probably wrong, but I said natural electrical phenomenon characterized by the appearance of streamers or reddish or greenish light in the sky, usually near the northern or southern magnetic poles.
Yeah, or you could, it does have a secondary definition, which is a little simpler, simply like the dawn. That's true what you said, but it can also mean anything dawn-like, so that the morning was auroral, or the auroral time of day, or something like that. What do you have, Emma?
Oh, I was just asking if the second one was.
Yeah, did you use it in a sentence?
I was confused how to use at least my definition in the sentence.
Well, I'll have to find how he uses it, but he talks a lot about morning, M-O-R-N-I-N-G. That's his time of day. It symbolizes newness and freshness and beginning, which he's all about. Conventicle.
A secret or unlawful religious meeting, typically of people with non-conformist views. And I said the meeting they attended and kept in secret was conventicle.
Was a conventicle.
A conventicle.
It's not an adjective, it's a noun, that's right. Because we have the First Amendment, we still even today have it. We don't know how the election's gonna turn out, but we have the right to worship. It's protected in the Constitution. So I don't think there could be such a thing. I mean, it's not illegal, no matter how crazy your religion might be, you make up something, you call it religion, you still have a right to, practice it, as long as it's within the law. So I don't know how it could be an unlawful place of worship, yeah.
If it's like a cult that like murders people, I guess it would.
Well, that would work. And if it were a theocracy like Salem, the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Puritans, that would be, they would not allow Quakers. Remember, they kicked the Quakers out of Pennsylvania. I know, isn't that where they lived? Or did they go to Pennsylvania? Anyway, if you weren't a Puritan in those days, it was hard to be another sect or denomination. How about Requiem, Sarah?
I said an act or token of remembrance.
Or you could add a mass, M-A-S-S, for the dead. I know in the Roman Catholic Church, I think a mass is where you have communion, and I think they have masses every day. I mean, you can take communion any day of the week, I think. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, but this is a mass for the dead. How did you use it?
He designed the epic as a requiem for his wife.
Say that one more time.
He designed the epic as a requiem.
Or requiem, yeah.
Requiem.
And it could be a music. A requiem can refer to a music too, for the dead. Emit, Emma.
Produce and discharge something, especially gas or radiation.
To release or send forth, yes. Something emits a pollutant, how did you use it?
The bird will emit a loud screeching noise when it is attacked.
Right, or some machine, emits something that pollutes the air. Colloquies, Jeff.
I just got a conversation.
Yeah,
And for the sentence, I just put the two men had colloquies for the meeting.
yeah, it's a conversation. Soliloquy is a what? Solo. Oakley. What is a solo Oakley? A soliloquy. It's solo. What does that mean? One. So colloquies is more than one, but it's a conversation. Soliloquies no one does that unless it's in a play. You have a soliloquy. How about sedulously?
Involving or accomplished with careful perseverance, sedulously, craftsmanship.
Good.
And I said the man showed great sedulously during his job.
All right. You would say, because it's an adverb, you can't use it as an adjective or a noun. So he works sedulously at the monthly report and kept him up all night. See the idea, he worked hard, he worked carefully on it. But it has to modify an adverb or an adjective. Evincing, Walker.
Reveal of the presence of a quality or feeling.
Okay, it shows or reveals something. It expresses, so if something evinces, it reveals it, okay, or shows it. Sentence?
His letters evince the excitement he felt at undertaking this journey.
Yeah, that's a great sentence, because the letters express, anywhere you would use show or express. Emit means to give off. So it's not the same thing as emit. It literally is a smoke, a fume, a whatever. Here it's a meaning that is expressed or shown. Stygian, Brian.
Relating to the Styx River.
Yes, and let's just add this, dark, fearful, or frightening. The Styx River is, remember where that is?
Isn't it Egypt?
It's in Greece.
I'm not sure which one you're thinking of.
The underworld.
The underworld.
Oh, that one. It's not in Egypt. The Styx is in the underworld.
All right, so the river Styx, is that river, it's
Isn't
the
it Gulf Coast
second
and Dreams or
river?
something?
I'm trying to remember the 5 rivers, but I think it was the second river that Dante crossed to get into the city of Dis. But it can mean dark, fearful, or frightening. Did you use it? Frank?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out something.
The haunted house, evinced a Stygian atmosphere due to the monsters and whatever, the darkness, fear, frightening, clarion, living.
Said a shrill, narrow tube war trumpet.
Yes, or it can be an adjective, meaning loud and clear. So a clarion call or the clarion note, whatever, it's just really clear. You've got people's attention. The honking of the horns outside was like a clarion call to, because it draws attention. It's loud and clear. And I think I misspelled it. Did I? How's it spelled?
Bellwether.
Is it hyphenated?
No.
Okay, so, that needs to be respelled. Is got 2 L's, like a bell?
Yeah. And then
But it doesn't have, it's not weather like in the climate, so how did you use it?
I
And-
said it was, an indicator or predictor or something,
Yes.
and then I said college campuses are often the bellwether of change.
Oh, very good. If you have a bad practice, it could be a bellwether of how you're gonna play the game the next day. And finally, misanthrope, Julian.
A person who dislikes human kind and avoids human society.
Yes.
And I said, Scrooge wasn't the mean-spirited misanthrope most of us believe him to be.
Very good, those are great. I haven't scheduled this yet. I'll do that in just a minute, and I'll tell you, we can get out, we're gonna do something regularly, I hope, while we read this book. I'm gonna ask you to write for about 10 minutes on this topic. Walden was essentially the product of journals that Thoreau wrote while he was at Walden Pond. And so, journals, you've been writing them for a long time. They're personal, but, and usually in school, they're also academic. So, I supply the topic, I've written them down, so I'm gonna give you this, so you'll know exactly what to write on it. I'll read it to you. It doesn't need to be more than 10 minutes long response, and I think you need more practice at writing.
We take this?
It's not a formal paper or anything, but, it's for you. I'm not going to take this up.
So, can we type it?
I guess you can type it, just say for that, the only thing that you're gonna use it for, that'll be fine. All right, so let me read it to you. A couple people wanna type it, but you don't have to. This is from Walden in the chapter on economy. It says, Thoreau makes the following statement. Most luxuries and many of the so-called comforts of life are not only indispensable, but positive hindrances to the elevation of mankind. Respond to the statement. What luxuries or comforts could you do without? How would your life be better without them? What are the essentials of life that you could not do without? And I'm gonna ask you to write for 10 or 15 minutes. I haven't asked you if you have a composition book, it'd be a great place to put it, but you don't need to. I think I would prefer that you write them on paper, Brian, even though you've got this. I just think you need the structure of the paper. So you're writing about what you could give up, and maybe we can share a little bit of that, and then we'll move on. We're gonna read a little bit. We'll have some time. that'd be about 10 after you can stop. About at least 3/4 of a page, that depends on how big you write, but whichever comes first. would like you to show it to me when you're done. I'm not gonna read it, but I will come around. Anybody wanna share what you might be willing to give up? I think we may have touched on that, earlier. Anybody wanna share that? Would like to see it, so let me at least look at that, you might be thinking of that. I think you did share it earlier. That it?
Dude, I can't
Ryan, you wanna buy my sandwich for $2? It's the moment.
Nobody's willing to share something you might be willing, okay, let's hear a couple of these, yeah.
I said online shopping.
Huh. What have you come to learn about that? That's
Well,
a waste of your money or time.
I don't need
Hang on.
to survive, it's more just entertainment, so I could probably live without it.
Thank you for sharing. Anything else? Any other things you'd be willing to, yeah, Alice?
I said I could do without like fancy clothes, I just need the basic stuff, warm and waterproof stuff, with water pockets, but I don't need anything like fashionable or.
Yeah. That's,
Not my work on it.
that's good, yeah,
I said fast food.
okay. With your efforts to hydrate yourself, which I don't see.
I left it in my locker.
You think the fast food would probably work counter to that? I don't know, that doesn't seem as healthy as the water.
It takes away the meaning.
The salt is probably works counter to that, yeah.
I said a lot of like home decor things like throw pillows and conversation pieces. Just kind of pointless. And the same with like kitchen appliances connected to Wi-Fi. What's the point?
Well, first of all, do you buy the throw pillows at your house, or
I
are you
don't.
criticizing the person who does?
I criticize the purchase.
Okay, that's fair, and I like your idea about that, connected to the what is it, Wi-Fi, the Siri or Google, whatever. It's unnecessary, you can go over and turn it on or turn it off. That's
Internet
it.
access.
What do you mean, is that?
You can do without internet access, I mean, the bare minimum is you have to call somebody and talk to them, but you can do without Google, the internet.
You could literally live without it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you just call somebody if you want.
Yeah, very good, yeah, Emily.
I said electronics that work for educational purposes.
That are not used for education, like what would be an example?
Well, I think like on my phone, I have a bunch of like just games on there that like I don't even use half of them. And like I have a couple things on my computer that like aren't for educational purposes that I spend too much time on.
That's a good point for me too, because I know my cell phone, is capable of doing things that I had no idea. You know, I mean, it's just a complete waste for it to be on there. So that would definitely be, although all it's doing is taking up space, I don't need it. Anybody else have things like that that you could get rid of? We watch HGTV, I think probably we could do without the sports thing, I know I could do without that. You know, I tend to put it on even though I'm not watching, I like the sound of it, you know, like there's a big game going on, particularly football. I could do without NFL football. I would miss college football, that's my thing, but I don't think I would miss NFL football.
For real?
Yeah, I really do. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I used to be a huge fan. Maybe when my team gets better, I'm a Panther fan. Used to be a Redskin fan when they were the Redskins. I'm talking about years ago. There were no Atlanta Falcons, that's how far back. There was no Southern team. If you lived in the South, you pulled for Washington. Because there was nobody else, no Florida team, no Georgia team.
Go in the county.
What I'd like you to do, anybody else, I'd like you to turn, would you turn to the second chapter in here? I just wanna get it started. We don't have a lot of time, but it's page 67. When we meet next week, we'll be. Hang on. I have a new set of questions. We answered through about 8 or 9. I'll have to look at it. We didn't answer all the others, but I think we've answered enough. So this is a new set.
Yeah, I just.
All right, let me, I'll just do the reading today since we don't have a lot of time. This is one of 4 chapters in addition to half the first chapter that we're gonna read. All right, so just have your questions available. We will answer at least the first chapter, the first question and the first paragraph. So this is entitled Where I Lived and What I Lived For. We want to be able to answer those two. So he's going to describe both. Page 67, the second chapter. At a certain season of our life, we are accustomed to consider every spot as a possible site of a house. I have thus surveyed the country on every side within a dozen miles of where I live. In imagination, I have bought all the farms in succession, for all were to be bought, and I knew their price. I walked over each farmer's premises, tasted his wild apples, discoursed on husbandry with him, and took his farm at his price, at any price, mortgaging it to him in my mind. Even but a higher price on it. Took everything but a deed for it. Took his word for the deed, for I dearly love to talk. Cultivated it, and him too, to some extent, I trust, and withdrew when I had enjoyed it long enough, leaving him to carry it on. I know your parents have experienced this, but probably not you. I mean, obviously not you. You haven't bought a house or a car, but when you do, you will own like a dozen houses and cars. You will imagine every house you look at or every car you look at as yours. Like, what would it be like if I owned that car? How would I drive it? You know, so in a sense, you're possessing the car in your mind only. Same thing with a house. You can imagine celebrating Christmas here, what it's like in the backyard during the summer. That's what he's saying. He's saying he did that in his efforts to find a place to live. That's what he did. The experience entitled me to be regarded as a sort of real estate broker by my friends. Wherever I sat, wherever I might live, and the landscape radiated from me accordingly. What is a house but a sedes, which is probably Latin and I've mispronounced it. A seat, perhaps better if a country seat. And I discovered many a site for a house not likely to be soon, and we're not done. I want to finish to the bottom. To be soon improved, with some might have thought too far from the village. But to my eyes, the village was too far from it. Well, there I might live, I said. There I did live for an hour, a summer, and a winter life. I saw how I could let the years run off, buffet the winter through, and see the spring come in. The future inhabitants of this region, wherever they might place their houses, may be sure that they have been anticipated. An afternoon sufficed to lay out the land into orchard, woodlot, and pasture, and to decide what fine oaks or pines should be left to stand before the door, and whence each blasted tree could be seen to the best advantage. and then I let it lie. Fallow perchance, for a man is rich in proportion to the number of things which he can afford to let alone. So just the one question we'll answer, what does that mean? Question number one, a man is rich in proportion to the number of things that he can afford to let alone. Yeah.
The things he can let alone are extra things that are essential, so the more things he is able to let go, the richer he is, because he has more things. That was Luke, sorry.
Yeah, no, I get, you hear what he's saying? The things he doesn't need make him richer, because he has only the things that he needs or wants. He doesn't have the things he doesn't need or want. So he's richer the fewer things he needs and wants. So we will finish this next week. We'll focus. The test will be sometime, probably next Friday. Next Thursday. I'll go ahead and try to schedule that next Thursday for the quiz. And I'll be working on your test.